So we come now to the second half of our morning's program. We now have Mr. Eric Chua to share his thoughts on care for culture. Okay, Mr. Chua is Senior Parliamentary Secretary in the Ministry of Social and Family Development, as well as the Ministry of Culture, Community and Youth. He previously served in the Singapore Civil Defence Force and the Ministry of Home Affairs for 17 years before being elected into Parliament 4 years ago. He's a strong advocate of social mobility. He believes in the power of mentoring as a great leveler, especially for people from humbler family backgrounds. Okay, and he's looking at me very intently. Yeah, so I bet
I was wondering when the introductions were.
just a little bit more. They give me a lot to introduce lah. Also because very accomplished. So final bit, for his service to the youth community in Singapore, Mr. Chua was conferred the prestigious 2017 Excellent Youth Award. Everybody say, ooh.
No longer a youth, by the way.
It's okay. You can serve the youth. Huh? Okay, and he's also received meritorious youth awards in 2010, 2012, and 2017 by the People's Association. So lots to share. Mr. Chua, very warm welcome.
Thank you very much.
Take it away.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I must first confess, that I come out on stage, and it's been a while since I come out on a school stage. And when I was a student myself, I like to think not so long ago, I used to be one of those who like to sit right behind at the last few rows and just doing my own thing, eating my lollipop. And then as the lecture finishes, I'm like, yeah, end of the day for me. But today, I'm just going to, is this thing working? Where do I point? Okay, there you go. Yeah. I'm going to take a bit of a time. I'm going to try to stick to the 15 minutes I have. I have about 17 slides. It's quite a lot to go through. I would try my best not to just read off the slides and then probably share a little bit more about my own experiences. And I'm very comforted by the fact that I, just based on, walking around and looking at the different exhibition panels, right? I think I'm amongst friends here because I do see, at least on the organizations listed, quite a number of organizations that I've had contact with, I've had the privilege of working with in the past 4 years in my work in the Ministry of Social and Family Development. So I'm in two ministries, Ministry of Culture, Community and Youth, as well as MSF. My work in MSF, my scope of work brings me to the low income, those with less amongst us, right? That's a Comlink initiative, and I'll talk a little bit about today. But also other groups like our rough sleeping friends on the streets, and that's where I meet good people like the folks from Ethnic Welfare Services. Are you guys in the house? Yeah, there you are. Yes. And also youth at risk. That's where I meet folks like Boys Town. All right. And also vulnerable groups in the community, our tissue paper sellers, and also our persons with disability. I know we have many organizations who are looking at these areas as well. But I want to focus a little bit more on Comlink and just to really share about what is it that we are trying to do in Comlink, and also what a larger shift it represents in the evolution of the Singapore story. So here goes. So by and large, I think in the past decades, we have done pretty well by different measures. Look at education, look at real income levels, life expectancy levels, home ownership levels. We have done respectably well, I would say, by all these measures. But including those from the lower income groups, I think our income inequality has declined in the recent past few years, especially. More children from low-income families also can have a good start in life, and children from disadvantaged backgrounds have opportunities to succeed. But we are beginning to see that, social mobility, which is really what keeps people going. Now, myself, I came from a humble family background. My mom and my dad were both blue-collar workers, and I love my mom and my dad because they worked very hard to put me and my two sisters through school. And there was a study, an occasional paper put up by MSF and MOF, that was a few years ago, and I think there's a refreshed version more recently, where families that started out in the bottom 20 percentile, right, the bottom quintile of income earners in Singapore. When this cohort was born between the years 1978 to 1982, I think, about a good close to 15% of this cohort, as they progressed through their lifetime, when the study was done in about 2020, that 14.3% of the bottom quintile earners, they've actually moved up to be in the top quintile earners. And I think that's the Singapore story. It's a story of hope, but fueling that is the fact that we have tried our best to keep social mobility alive. But we have seen in recent times that, there are signs that social mobility is slowing down. We look at the profile of residents in the rental flat families. Increasingly, we see families that are younger. Increasingly, we see families that are not just younger, but also staying in rental flats for a longer period of time. So therefore, in 2019, we started on the ComLink journey. Now, what is the ComLink journey? ComLink reaches out proactively to families who are living in rental flats, families with children and youth below the age of 21. And what we want to do is, instead of waiting for them to come to us, we are saying proactively we reach out to you. And we want to journey with the family as they work towards something. What is that something that we want them to work towards? This 3S outcome that we are talking about. We want them to work towards stability, self-reliance, and hopefully eventually social mobility. It's not something that we think can be achieved in a few weeks, a few months, perhaps not even just a few years, but it really needs, the secret sauce to come in. What is the secret sauce? And we think the secret sauce is not government pumping in whatever resources that we have, not, community organizations by yourself working very hard to make sure that ground up there are initiatives that caters to the needs of these families, individual volunteers doing what they do week in, week out, but actually a sum of all these parts coming together to do good and do good by these families. So we want them to have good outcomes, social mobility, stability, self-reliance in various indicators like education, housing, health, family functioning, so on and so forth. And therefore, over the years, we have piloted in 2019, and in 2021, we have actually propagated ComLink to the entire island. All rental flat families in Singapore with children and youth below the age of 21, we offer ComLink. Of course, some families are not ready to work with us, but today we have some 14,000 families that are ready to say, look, let's work hard together. Let's work with the government. Let's work with community organizations. Let's work with corporates. And you might be wondering, how do all these disparate parts come in? Now, as I go through my slides, I think we can give a little bit more details. I'm going to skip some slides because I think I've hidden some slides, but I think it's coming out anyway. So I don't know, the slides aren't listening to me, but I'll just try to work anyway. So what we want to do is to really move from a journey where, in the past, our rental flat families would need to go agency to agency, community organization to community organization, just to really put together, things so that their lives can go on. All right? That's not tenable. That imposes a huge and unreasonable bandwidth tax on these families. Just imagine the parents going around, sometimes single parents, going around to HDB, to the town council, and then after that to the social service office, and thereafter going to the family service center to have a session with the social worker. And by the end of the day, they are so bushed that there's no energy left whatsoever to think about what's best for my kid, what course does my kid go to, how do I make sure that my kid stays in school, what is my kid doing, is my kid attending school? I mean, these are questions that our families in the rental flat situation deal with on a day-to-day basis. And we're saying, no, that cannot be the case. That's why we are proactively reaching out. And the social service office, as a Keynote, will bring together all the different resources from different partners, different agencies, be it your community organization, your government agency, The SSO will be the keynote to bring together all these resources, and we deliver these services through the family coach, which is a full-time MSF staff. But the family coach actually works together with a volunteer befriender, that really provides a non-government face, because sometimes some of these families may not interface very well with somebody who might be a government official, right? So we do put volunteers in the mix, and that's how individuals can make a difference through Comlink. I begin to understand why, because I think it's the earlier version of the slide deck that I've submitted. Because I submitted another slide deck at about 7 a.m. this morning, so my apologies for that. I woke up early this morning to work on fine-tuning the slides though. But never mind, we will try to make do. And I think Comlink, having been around for a few years now, we have evolved to a stage that we want to go from social assistance, right? We're just supporting families for them to get by. We want to move from social assistance right along to social empowerment, all right? And what is a distinct marker of this? To me, a key sea change really lies in our Comlink Plus progress packages. What am I talking about? So it used to be the case that when you assemble, well, what's happening? I think they're changing the slides. Maybe they heard me. Ooh, magic. Is that so? I hope so, but never mind, I'll continue, right? The story, yeah. So the Comlink Plus progress packages, essentially there are 4 packages today. Well, we're not cancelling out the fact that there could be more packages in future, but essentially these 4 packages looks at 4 main goals of the family. One is to look at preschool education, because the science shows that if we don't put an emphasis on education right during the tender young years of preschool, maybe by the time these kids get to primary 1, we might have lost them already. Because just imagine, right? If I go to one, I'm from a rental flat family, I go to primary 1, and I'm facing my teacher, and then the boy or girl next to me is going on and on about speaking very fluent English, very articulate, very expressive, and knows the 2, 3, 4 times table by heart, can do more than basic arithmetic, and then here I am, I'm struggling to complete the first to 26 letters in the alphabet. What chance do I have to catch up with the person next to me, right? Hence our emphasis on preschool education. So therefore, starting the second half of this year, what we are saying is this. Now, if parents in Comlink families, if they commit to signing up their children, their preschool age children at the age of 3, they can start from the age of 3. If they sign their kids up for preschool at age 3, well, there will be a top-up on the child development account of $500. This is a one-time top-up. And for each quarter that the child goes to preschool, regularly, and we're talking about at least 75% attendance, for each quarter of good attendance, there'll be an additional $200 of top-up. And this works up to about $3,700 all in all before the child completes preschool, the whole entire preschool journey. And the government will match 1-for-1, which means that by the end of that preschool journey, the child could possibly have a top-up of up to $7,400 in his or her child development account, which could be used for education fees, could be used for preschool fees, could be used for items like making glasses and so on and so forth. And that's what we do to want to try to, give that child a leg up. And there will be 3 more packages that are being rolled out next year that will focus on home ownership, that will focus on stable employment that pays CPF, all right? And also at the same time, debt relief, all right? So these are the 4 packages that we are working. Now, how do we make this all work? It's not just the work of government alone. In fact, in Forward Singapore, we keep saying this, and I will repeat this again, that the government can't do this alone. No way, fat hope. And we do need every quarter of society to step in order for Comlink to work. We need volunteers, I've talked about our volunteer befrienders. They form a significant part of the Comlink equation. We talk about funding. Some of us, when we did some message testing, right, with members of the public, some questions arose. Wow, why are you using taxpayers' money to pay off debts of private debts of these individuals? Our reply is simple. Those are not taxpayers' money. Those are actually donations that are made by corporates like DBS, corporates or community organizations like Nghi An Kong Si and things like that. So we have gone on different roadshows to try to bring corporates and these well-meaning organizations on board, and they have put in good money to make sure that some of these schemes can work out well, hopefully. And we also invite community and many corporates as well. They commit not just financial resources, but they also commit volunteer resource to work with us to co-create programs that really meet the needs of our Comlink families. So as of November last year, we have about 1,600 volunteer befrienders. Happy to report that. And we have a whole circle of family working with our family coaches. And we have a whole circle of volunteer befrienders from the grassroots, from the community, institutes of higher learning, as well as corporates coming on board. And these are just some of the items I mentioned already. That's Comlink in a nutshell. You can ask me more about it later. I'm not sure I did it a lot of justice because that's really a quick, broad stroke of what Comlink is all about. Here's other bullet points that what I'm doing in the ministry or what we are doing in the ministry to try to, do a rallying call to the community. There's a lot more we can do together. So for instance, in the peers network, for which CWS will be very familiar with, I mean, week in, week out, we have big-hearted volunteers going onto the streets of Singapore, engaging and at the same time bringing food and bringing, welfare, talking to rough sleepers on the streets. Now, a lot of people perhaps frame this as a purely housing issue. I would say categorically that it is not. Because for many of our rough sleeping friends that we meet, and this I can say from my personal experience, because I do join CWS as well as other well-meaning organizations on the ground. We start at about 10 p.m., we end at about 2 a.m., 3 a.m. We talk and we spend time talking to each individual to understand their circumstance. Why do we do that? Because we want to be able to give the most well-meaning solution or provide the most well-meaning suggestions. And you find that many of them actually have homes to go back to, or can they? Sometimes they can't because they've had family disputes. Sometimes they can't because of a variety of reasons, mental health concerns, for instance. And therefore, this is a piece of work that we, as a government, can't go at it alone. And we really appreciate partners like CWS, who are part of our peers network, not just on a regular basis reaching out to rough sleepers on the ground, but also operating safe, sound living places. So essentially, these are quite Spartan spaces that organizations have very generously given out or let out for use by rough sleepers so that they can put up for the night, so that they don't have to fight the elements, so they don't have to worry about the fact that their belongings and items can be burgled. All right. Because in Singapore, even though crime is low, but low crime doesn't mean no crime. So petty crime still does occur. And we do want them to be to have a good headspace so that they can at least make good decisions with regard to what they do with their lives. So that's the partners engaging and empowering rough sleepers network, the peers network. There is a separate but sometimes overlapping network, the vulnerable community network. And this network engages and befriends a different part of society, a different part of our community. And these are the tissue paper sellers, our tin can collectors, our cardboard collectors as well. But these community, this sub-community, I should say, presents a very different ecosystem because there's actually an economy around tissue paper selling, for instance. And sometimes I shan't dive too deep into this work, in a big hall like this. If you're keen to talk about this, you can talk to me in private. But I think sometimes, safe to say, there are turf wars whenever it comes to tissue paper selling. And it's not easy, again, for our volunteers on the ground to be able to make a lot of changes, because sometimes the issues are long-standing between different tissue paper sellers in a specific area. And but I really thank our groups on the ground for also working on the VIC piece of work. The last one actually pertains to the charity footwork group. Well, actually not last one, I have one more slide after this. The charity footwork group actually is a coalition of different food charities on the ground. And what we do is that we have brought all of them together in the hope of coordinating food giving. Hopefully we can also share best practices, right? We have a food directory and database. Directory is a front-facing one for anybody who wishes to subscribe to a food donation. Database is more for the charity providers so that they can coordinate their giving. Because oftentimes you see quite a bit of unevenness in terms of service on the ground. Some residents or some blocks can be overserved. You have 2 or 3 organizations serving this particular block at the same time, where some blocks are totally left in the dry, so they're underserved. So what we try to do is to even out some of this unevenness on the ground. But there are challenges as well, because sharing of some of this data can be challenging for some of these organizations. And some of these organizations, because of the way they work, they don't really collect a lot of data as well. So the giving is quite freewheeling. So quite a number of challenges in terms of working in this space as well, in the charity food space. But again, these are some of the work groups that MSF is trying to lead up. And this slide is my last slide, I promise. Is very busy, but essentially the point I'm trying to say is that we are trying to make our society a one that's more caring and inclusive. And sometimes the absence of certain sub-communities speaks volumes. And I had this epiphany when I was in Tokyo in 2021 for the Tokyo Olympics and Paralympics. Now, when I was going through the Olympics, so I'll report back from Tokyo, whatever I see, whatever I hear, good news, whatever. And whatever I post on my Facebook and Instagram, there'll be a lot of interaction. We say, oh yes, let's go Team Singapore. Well, that's for Olympics, yeah. But whenever I post anything, even if it's about us winning medals in the Paralympics, Lee Pin-Siu won 2 swimming medals, by the way, in Tokyo 2021, gold medals. All right. I would say the response was lukewarm at best. Maybe it's because I would say I put in equal amount of effort to craft both my captions for the Olympic post as well as the Paralympic post. But I think that's my epiphany then was, wow, the attention that we pay to Paralympians and to the entire Paralympic movement is quite telling. And the other epiphany I had was, hey, I use our public swimming pools a lot. I mean, I used to swim a lot. Why is it that I don't see people like Lee Pin-Siu? I don't see wheelchair users. I don't see persons with physical disabilities, visible disabilities in our midst, in our sporting facilities, in our gyms, in our shopping centres, in our community parks and gardens by the bay, so on and so forth. I rarely see them. So some caregivers share with me that, Eric, sometimes it's easy to go out in big groups when there are big organized gatherings, but it's so hard when we go out alone. So especially when, say, I have a son who is autistic, and I mean, this is not me, but if the caregiver tells me if I have an autistic son, and then if my son has a meltdown, oftentimes what I get from general members of the public is more stares than actually care. But actually what we can do, right, while we have grand plans and all, what we can do as part of society is to really just go out, be human, and if you see that, there's a caregiver who is looking after a person either with an invisible or visible disability, just go up to say, hey, you're doing a good job, please keep it up. I think that will go a very long way in making sure that we can be a more inclusive society. I wanted to end with this because this is something that's really close to my heart. It's not quite what we talk about in Comlink, and not quite even what we talk about in the VIC peers scope of work. but I hope it's okay for me to veer a little bit out of topic. I think it's still somewhat in topic for us because I think this is important for us to be a caring and inclusive society. I think this mindset as well as behavioral changes need to take place. So on that note, I will now zip here because I've seen that please wrap up sign 2 minutes ago. So I've overrun by about 3 minutes right now. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chua.